From Toronto to Tokyo, and from Thonia to Syrinx, this is The Basement, your companion to the Ready Player One novel. Join our hosts each episode for complete chapter breakdowns and deep dives into the pop culture references through a series of challenges and homework assignments. The Basement is the Ready Player One podcast for people who love things. And now, please welcome Albert and the rest of the Gunters for this week's episode. Hello, Gunters. You are in the basement. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 38 through 39, My Favorite Person. We are finally wrapping up the last two chapters of the Ready Player One novel, just a few days, actually, a week before the release of Ready Player Two. I said we'd do it, and we did it. And one of the main people that got me through this and getting through the end of this novel really is one of my favorite people, and that is Mr. Will Wilkins, about to take a drink there.
I'm sorry, I was drinking.
How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, man. Good to see you, and congratulations on making it to the end of the novel, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a 3-year project for the most part, simply because I took such a long hiatus there for a while, and wasn't sure if I'd even come back to do all of this. And but yeah, I'm just glad we got it through it. It's been a lot of fun. Thankfully, it didn't feel like a chore, although we were cranking out the episodes.
Man, I got to tell you,
it was so much fun though, doing the research and then just getting time to spend time with you. Honestly, more than anything, really. But it was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Poignant.
Yeah. Well.
I'm gonna need a moment.
Okay, so before we get started, let me share a couple things just real quick here. And as you guys know, the Ready Player 2 novel will be out November 24th. So we will be back here Wednesday, November 25th, and we will be recording our very first episode live. It'll be the epilogue, so whatever that may be. And we're making assumptions here, right? We're making assumptions that there's going to be an epilogue. And if there is, that's what we'll be covering. We'll do the same thing, break down the pop culture references, talk about the narrative, and have a good time with it. I can't wait. I think I've got at least 5 or 6 copies coming in once I add all the ones that I've gotten for the virtual sign-up tours. I signed up for 3 or 4 of those, and there's a book included with every one of them. So I think what I'm going to do is probably give a book away on the show, or if people are interested for whatever reason, I can do that. But how are you planning to consume this when it comes out on the 24th?
I think it depends on Amazon's delivery schedule. So I'm counting on Amazon to get it to me a day early, which seems to be their modus operandi. If that's the case, I'm going hard paper the whole way. If not, midnight Kindle, I'm going to knock it out.
Yeah. Same thing. I'll hopefully the Kindle version will be out the night before. I heard today I was reading somewhere somebody said at 9 p.m. our time or Central Time. The day before, sometimes they release those, so I don't know if there's any truth in that. But yeah, I'll probably stick with the electronic version if that comes out first, and then switch to the very first copy, whatever I should get my hands on from that point on. So I'm excited. I can't believe. And Terrence, thanks for being here. Yeah, he says, so glad we're here. It's a bittersweet ending, but absolutely. Let's see. Let's talk about this thing, though. This is the big one, right? So this Wednesday, December 2nd, 9 p.m., we'll have Ernie Klein here on the show. I've spoken to him. He's ready. He's already committed. He's excited. He's looking forward to being on the show. And what we're going to do is I sent him this. I won't get into all the details just yet because I'm still want him to confirm everything he's cool with doing. But there's a rubber chicken and some whipped cream and stuff. And so I don't know if he's really going to go with that. But no. So we are going to, hopefully at that point, we'll be at chapter 1, whatever that may be. And what we'd like to do is just kind of start off early, kind of get him to give us an update on how things are going with the novel, the success of the novel. We know it's going to be great success, right? And then after that, we'll get into breaking down chapter 1, and we're going to do it just like we normally do here on the show. We're going to go through the narrative, list all the pop cultures. We'll get into the weeds, talk about some trivia, and we're going to let him, play along with us. So it should be pretty cool to get his perspective on a lot of that the pop culture references in there. And then at the very end, we'd like to ask him just a few questions. And I've got some questions that I've asked of the Gunter group, the official Facebook, the official Ready Player One Gunter group that's out there. I reached out to Chris, who's the admin. So Chris, thank you. If you were watching and listening right now, thank you so much for doing that. He posted something on there, and would like to try to get some questions from there. as well as some questions from our listeners and our supporters, especially the Patreon folks. If you've got questions, reach out to us in any way you want. You can do it on social media. You can do it on Patreon. You can send us an email, however you want to do it. But we would like to get some questions to ask him, and we'll randomly pick some of these questions to ask. So
now I've done a ton of research here, Albert. So the only rule we currently have is no questions that you can find in an interview that he's done over the last couple of weeks, or he did during his book tour or movie tours for Ready Player One. I have got a laundry list of questions that I imagine he is tired of answering. So
right, and we're going to stay clear of those, right?
That is correct. There will be no duplicates. In fact, if you post a question and I know where he answers it, I'll just post a link as a reply.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, I like that. We hadn't talked about that, but I'm glad we hammered that out. Okay, again, Wednesday, December 2nd. Please come back in 2 weeks here, just over 2 weeks, for the live episode with Ernie Klein. All right, and with that, let's get started. Let's talk about the chapter 38. We're here at the final stages of it. And so this is he goes into the final gate. There's absolutely no communication at this point. They can see him, they can hear him, but he can't hear them anymore, right? So he's just kind of there watching and talking. He tries to turn on the old computers and the video game systems, and this is where we got that none of them were turning on. The only one that comes on is the MSI 8080, which is the one we know from War Games. He goes over to there and starts trying to enter a password at the login screen. And I remember when I was reading this, I was thinking, it's got to be Joshua, right? It just has to be.
Has to be Joshua.
But of course it's not, because that would be too easy. But he tries Anorak, he tries Halliday. He then tries Joshua, which, again, Joshua would have been the first one I tried, but whatever. He tries Ogden Kira, which was, the person that he loved most in the world. That didn't work. He tried the parents' names. He tried Zaphod and Tiberius. Zaphod was the fish. Tiberius was it the hamster?
Yes.
I think it was a hamster. Maybe it was a squirrel. That was a hamster. And then he remembers that he only spoke to Kira as Anorak. And when he spoke to her, he referred to her as Lucasia. So he types in Lucasia, and that right there gave him access into the systems. At that point, all the systems turn on. He immediately heads over to the 2600, which I would never really. I mean, I get it. He's a big 2600 fan. I know Klein's obviously a big 2600 fan. He says that's one of the reasons why he wrote this book. But is that just instinct there? Pure instinct at that point for him?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then there was also, I think if you call the reference back to where was when he was back in Middletown, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 2600 was there, and we talked about adventure, right? So that's probably where he drew that direct parallel of, oh, yeah, I probably should go to that one first. He puts the adventure game in. Makes sense. A few minutes later, he makes it to the secret room, kills the dragons. He finds the black key to the Black Castle, heads over to the secret room, and there, instead of seeing created by Warren Robinette that we're all kind of used to seeing from the adventure game, there's actually an egg there, and it's a oval with pixelated edges is what it says here. And he picks up the egg and in game, and at that point he wins the entire contest. So this is the big moment. And as I was reading this, I enjoyed. For me, it was like, I thought they did a good job of capturing it on the movie, like what I was feeling, just the anticipation, the excitement of the energy that he was having as he was going through all of this. And a lot of this is coming from, too, he knows that Sorrento is doing the same thing at this point, right? Sorrento is right on his tail. He knows that he's already gotten through the gate. He's already probably figured out the Lucasia piece as well. So it's just really kind of a battle of wits right now in terms of who can finish the game first.
I did think the book does it. So I like the scene that they draw around. I like the idea of him thinking Sorrento's there, but he's not there's not like a group of Sixers right across the way. The movie did as good a job as it could with what it was, but I would prefer to be in that room with all of those consoles. I would have liked that scene, I think.
Mm. Oh, you're talking about rather than the one we had with the ice and all that?
Yeah. I think that would have been much cooler.
Yeah.
Because just to put him back in that environment for when you would be playing adventure in that room, but you've got all this freaking equipment everywhere. I think it's just a cool vibe.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you would have had the side-by-side unless they did some weird, like 3/4 shot, where it had another room that was replicated next to it and it had Sorrento. And that'd be cool. Like it could see each other and they knew each other were in duplicate mirrored rooms and maybe a group of Sixers also. It would have been cool.
There you go. Where?
Hey, I'm going to call Steven up and tell him what he needs to be doing here with the
Yeah.
films, with the adaptations.
You do that. Let us know how that goes. Come back and
Hey,
report on that.
we made that one movie when we were like 15. It was fantastic. Stop motion animation.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll have to put that one up on YouTube for people to see.
Harry Holzhausen style. That's how we do it.
It was called Albert and Will's Really Cool Movie with Wizards and Stuff. I think that was the official title, wasn't it?
It was
Something very similar to that.
Wizards and sorcerers and stuff. And because we couldn't figure out how to sync our high quality VHS tape with audio, we basically recorded the audio on a regular tape using like a tape recorder, and then you had to push play on the VCR at the same time you push play on our tape so that you could actually hear the narration.
It was a very good time.
So well done.
It was well done. Okay, sorry. Back to the novel. He leaves the gate of Castle Anorak, and suddenly it turns into a door. And at this point, he realizes that all of Thonia has been restored completely. Like everything is back to normal after being wiped out by the catalyst. And he goes into the door. It has a spiral staircase that goes all the way up to the top. And at the very top, he finds Anorak's study. He finds a chalice there, puts the egg onto the chalice, and trumpets blare. I mean, this is really truly the part where he finally wins everything. And he hears a voice behind him that says, "You win." And Anorak is standing right behind him. He tells Parzival that he's got the prize. He takes Parzival's hand, and there's this really cool exchange of energy. Essentially, he's taken all of his powers and charging them into Wade at that point. He talks about the blue energy that's surging between both of them. So this is how he's transferring everything over. Anorak looks at Halliday, and at that point, he's no longer wearing the dark robes anymore. He's been reverted back to the kind of like the character we saw in the movie again. I think that was pretty spot on. But you know, where it says worn jeans, faded Space Invaders T-shirt, exactly like we saw in the movie. But he's just kind of like the the Halliday that he's always seen before. And then Parzival is now wearing his robes, obviously. He's got max stats, spell powers. He's like overpowered to the extreme, right? Magic items, hit points, and his level are now showing infinity symbols, which I think was really cool. Like that's a nice little nod to whenever you play games like that and you've hit that marker of like world god mode, that infinity thing does speak to you. His credits were in 12 digits, so at that point he is, billionaire. And then Halliday tells him that he's immortal, and he says, "Do me a favor, try and use your powers for good, okay?" So I want to just pause real quick right here, and I got a question. I think I've got 4 of these that kind of happened throughout the chapter 38 here, and these are kind of like speculation questions. We're getting real close, obviously, to Ready Player 2, but this chapter had 4 things in it particularly that made me wonder if they were preludes to chapter 2 or foreshadowing things that we might see. And so the first one is, do you think Halliday clearly tells him, try to use your power for good? In my opinion, he understands how tempting it can be to use them for evil or for not good purposes. Do you think we're going to see Wade at any point in Ready Player 2 using or abusing the power that he has here?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a believer in, I'm sure you're familiar with Lord Acton, who was a 15th century philosopher in Britain.
Oh, yeah. I've read all his books.
Of course you have. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right. And the reason why it does is because at some point you lose recognition that you're making mistakes. You are eventually just so omnipotent that there is no longer a way for you to see the difference between right or wrong. It's almost like when you think about how an AI, like Intelligent Life, and I know you've probably seen some conspiracy theory videos of what we've had. In fact, I know you and I have probably talked about it more than once, about what happens when computers become sentient, but they still have the rationality of a computer, right? And they have the ability to do whatever they want in terms of how they manipulate our infrastructure or our weapon systems. They wouldn't look at some of the actions that they would do as being corrupt, right? Like if they decided, look, here's the problem. We have overpopulation. So we're
wipe out
sterilizing people. We'll get rid of 75% of the population and try again, right? Or just wipe out the grid and have people start over, or, put people in a state of slavery, because to some degree, if effectively managed, socialism could possibly work. So yeah, I think he's going to. Now, just because you made the wrong decision doesn't mean you didn't make it for the right reasons. Of course, what I like most about Ready Player One, and I hate to wax on about this, is that Ernest Cline wasn't afraid to write a book where he is talking about people is traditional archetypes. The good guys in this book are good. The bad guys are bad. And that doesn't seem to be something that you really saw after the 80s. Like modern media really likes to present its characters as being these dynamic, spectrum-based, good people who occasionally do bad things or bad people who are just misunderstood. So maybe he'll just stick to the lines on the characters, but I don't think he will. That wouldn't be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think about somebody like, well, we talked about Sorrento and his background, right? It's kind of similar there, where is he really bad? And I call that the Star Wars effect because I just because that's the closest thing to me. But they've gone back through and done a lot of that where they've made it a lot more gray, right? It used to be when 77 came out, it was black and white. You got the good guys, you got the bad guys. They look black. The other guys were wearing white. It was just weird. And
does Star Wars have to get credit for everything on this show?
Yes. Yeah. Nothing's original. Everything came from George Lucas comedy
It's
hour.
nothing but Star Wars you're watching. That's going to be you. You're going to be 85 years old sitting on your porch. Someone's going to show you like a book or a movie. You're going to be like, that ain't nothing but Star Wars. I saw the Star Wars back in 77. It's the same thing.
What are you talking about when I'm 85? I'm doing it now in my 40s. I'm fine.
30, sir. Don't
30.
date us.
Oh, I'm
we
sorry.
graduated together. Come on.
All right. Okay, get back to the. All right. So yeah, and I'm in agreement. Honestly, I think at some point it is going to come up. I think he's going to abuse the power. And not to speculate too much here, but I really, you kind of want that, right? You want him to. He had a great life, a great run in this book, but he's got to be faced with something. And then you get into the whole Superman God complex thing too, right? Like how do you challenge somebody like Superman who's just so powerful and godly? You've got to do it in other ways. And I think that's where I hope Cline goes with this is tries to break him down outside of the Oasis, much like he did in the first one as well. Okay, so let's move on. So, he tells him that only Parzival can come into the study, and behind one of the bookshelves, there's a comically large red button with the word off. And he says he calls it the big red button, which I always think of like Ren and Stimpy.
It's got to be that.
Don't push the red button.
Yeah. Get away! Do not touch the button.
We didn't put it down as a reference. Maybe we should. We'll come back to that one. Yeah. But he says it turns off the Oasis. It launches a worm to delete everything on the GSS servers, and including the Oasis source code shuts down basically forever. Do you think, here's another speculation question, he's going to press this button at any point in the novel? RP2.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the follow-up question. Does he do it? Does he do it at the end or somewhere at the end? Like, is this how the book ends, or do you think this is going to be somewhere in the middle? And
it's going to be right in the middle. It's going to be in the middle. It's going to be in the middle. In fact, I'm going to say it's going to be in the first quarter or so of the book, and then it's going to draw the plot line of how does he restore the Oasis, and there's going to be some crazy quest,
it's 30 chapters of backup tape running.
Oh, I didn't mean like that. Like, I think he's gonna. Then you get like some holiday thing where he's like coming. I can't believe you have me speculating because I hate doing this.
I know you do. I'm like,
but,
go.
Okay, go. Look what I've made you into. But anyway, what I think is, okay, so he erases the Oasis, right? Then Holiday appears after he regrets it, right? He regrets what he did, and Holiday comes back all Obi-Wan Kenobi style and tells them there's only one way to restore the Oasis. You must complete the quest in order to show yourself worthy of doing so. It will take all of your friends. But at this point in the book, all the friends have already like broken up because they're mad at each other for whatever. And so now he's got to get the team back together, a la every sequel of the 80s, complete this quest and restore the Oasis.
Okay.
You don't have to read the book.
We're done here.
Thing.
We're done. We'll just end the show on that. Okay, thank you.
I'm going with that. That.
All right. Let's see. So, I guess my thought is he'll shut it off. I like your idea more than mine. I thought, well, maybe it would be poignant for him just to end it all at the very end, but with a couple prologue chapters or whatever. But we'll see.
Like that's the whole story. Like
Well,
It
no, I
just
mean, like,
opens and then he hits the button. Thanks for reading, folks.
yeah, back to Middletown. No, I don't. No, I meant like at the very end. Sorry, at the very end he does it. Like the last thing he does is he has to do it because of something, right? He just has no other way to do it. Shuts it off because I think it puts Klein at a point where he's like, okay, I don't technically at this point the Oasis is gone, and if I do want to write a Ready Player 3, then I think it's your story. It's like, okay, how do we restore the Oasis? We've got to get back to the island, kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
There's another.
I think JR nailed it. So I like this idea. I like that. There's going to be a real life quest. Lol. But you know what? That makes sense. So I don't want to steal your thunder. Continue, sir, because at the end of chapter 38, we'll get to something that makes sense to me.
Okay. So this next part has a question in there. It's a little, you got to kind of dig at it, but it says, listen, I need to tell you one last thing before I go. Something I didn't figure out for myself until I was already too late. I created the Oasis because I never felt at home in the real world. I didn't know how to connect with the people there. I was afraid for all my life, right up until I knew it was ending. That was when I realized, as terrifying and as painful as reality can be, it's the only place where you can find true happiness because reality is real. He says, do you understand? And I guess the question is the reality is real part. And I'm wondering if that has anything to do. Do you think that'll be a focus at any point in Ready Player 2? Kind of like what GR is saying here.
Must be. It has to be. And so I think for no other reason than to retcon the book, right? So if you walk away from this book, and I'm sure you've read reviews of this book, and they're all over the spectrum on how people feel about this. Some people love it. Some people are extremely critical of it. And one of the things that people are most critical of is this scene, is that you try to shove a PSA about how we need to walk away from our computers at the end of a book where we spent the entire time in this Oasis VR environment. Like, if Holiday was really committed to that, what would have prevented him from creating a real world quest in the first place? Like, just do it in the real world, and then you would be forcing all of these people to step away from the Oasis just so they could fulfill this quest, and then they would own the Oasis, I guess. Mm-hmm. But now I think you almost have to put it in backwards order so that the next book has to have a real world quest to reinforce what the setup was at the end of chapter 38.
Okay.
But what do I know? I am a doctor.
You are a doctor. All right. He says, good luck, Parzival, and thanks for playing my game, which was a great line in the movie. Anorak leaves. He discovers that Age, Shoto, and Artemis have the ability to speak to him again once he gets into Halliday's office, and then he loses the feed completely. There's like nothing else going on here. You can't talk. The scoreboard reads Parzival wins, or I should say, when he was talking to Halliday right there when he went into the office, no one could see him, no one could hear him. It was just a conversation between those two at that point. He heads out, sees a scoreboard, says Parzival wins. Parzival then ejects the Sixers with his new powers. He kicks him out, boots him out, and kills him outside of the gate, which I thought was pretty cool. They probably had it coming though. And then he makes his first wish, which I wonder how much that'll play into the next book as well. But he wishes that H, Artemis, and Shoto be resurrected, that they have all their loot. And H and Shoto both show up. They're at the gate with them. They're real thankful. They're excited to be alive again. But Artemis doesn't show up because she didn't jump back in. She actually stayed out and went back out to, I don't know, where she goes to the garden, right? The head garden.
Waiting for sexy time.
But just before he heads to the real world, he sees that Sorrento has been arrested for threatening to kill Wade. So they're playing the vid. You can see it happen. And the entire time he's smirking like Hannibal Lecter, right, into the camera. And then Wade wonders if he's ever going to get out scot-free. And so the next question I have for you is, will Sorrento play a role in Ready Player 2? And if so, will he be out and free, like roaming around? Will he be in hiding? Or will he be locked up a la Hannibal Lecter?
Okay, so I could see that a la Hannibal Lecter, but he definitely gets out, right? I'm going to say he gets out. And again, we're speculating again. I can't believe this. We're speculating like a week before the book comes out. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to say, here's my useless. I'm going to do the whole Nostradamus thing where I'm just going to make so many prognostications that one of them may sound right. In fact, I'll speak in code. An old man shall befriend a youth and will succeed in fulfilling his quest. That's going to happen. Believe it. So anyway, to to answer your question more directly before I get back into the drink, I'm going to say absolutely, but I'm going to say he does that whole twisty where Sorrento gets out of jail scot-free. He's somewhat broken, but for some reason, Parzival needs him. Wade needs him to fulfill the quest. And so he becomes part of his clan, and they all work side by side. And right before the end, he is going to sacrifice himself and
Sorrento?
die. Yes, as the bad guy turned good, right? And finally found his heart.
SP, Ready Player 2, Waiting for Sexy Time.
That's right.
That's the novel.
That's right.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of 38. Let's talk about 39. What did you go grab? Did you go grab a fish?
What? No, I grabbed this bottle of alcohol you can't see. It's like
that's what
it's.
Well, you're holding it up, and I could see the label.
Green.
I thought you grabbed a fish.
I meant to grab it this way. That way you couldn't tell. Like, oh, I'm not doing nothing.
Out of the bottle. All right, let's get into 39. Wade steps into the immersion bay. Steps out of the immersion bay. He's greeted by Og, and Og tells him that congrats, and that he's got a bunch of lawyers on his side now. And he immediately asks, "Hey, where's Artemis at?" And this is where he tells her that she's gone out into the hedge maze that's been fashioned after the game Adventure. He runs upstairs, makes his way through the maze, and comes across Artemis, who's sitting there, Samantha, sitting there with her back to him. And so he walks around to kind of see her from the front, and says she looked just as she did in the photo I'd seen. She had the same Rubenesque body, the same pale, freckled skin, the same hazel eyes and raven hair, the same beautiful round face with the same reddish birthmark. But unlike in the photo, she wasn't trying to hide the birthmark with a sweep of her hair. She had her hair brushed back so I could see it. This was like I like Olivia Cook, right? I thought she did a great job, honestly, as Artemis. But there was and I meant to throw this up there and I didn't get a chance. There's an artist that we follow on The Basement, and she actually did some portraits based on the novel like 5-6 years ago, and does a brilliant job of I thought of capturing this particular passage and what Artemis would have looked like or what Samantha would have looked like. But yeah, I mean, there's no feedback there, but I think they're very different in terms of who we saw on screen versus who we saw in the novel.
Yeah, and to me, I feel the same way when movie adaptations are made of books and they step away from the social issues that made the books powerful. I think the same thing was done here, and I get it, right? We're marketing this movie and it's got to go out there. But part of the beauty of this story, to me at least, was, we're all just imperfect people. I hate movies that show some super hot chick and they put glasses on her and then people treat her mean and act like she's a nerd when you're like, that's not what nerds look like. That's not what we look like. We don't have like a 6-pack abs, like there's no way that somebody would look at Wade or the character that's playing Artemis and think, yeah, this is a nerd couple. But the way this scene in particular is far more powerful because of it than it is in the movie. Yeah. It's much better that, hey, look, we're seeing past all of that. Like, I think the line is, he says something like, "You're just as I imagined you would be. You're beautiful." And she was like, "You're just as I imagined you, but ugly."
But ugly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And it makes sense in the context of what those characters look like. And it's not like, I'm not like some, big person pride patriot or something like that. But I think there's something real about it, because I think what Ernest Cline does well in this book when he writes his characters is, a lot of people criticize him and say, these people don't have a lot of depth, they're not original. But to some extent, these characters should feel familiar to the reader because they're intended to be him, us,
right?
People we grew. They're amalgamations of all the people that we have known in our lives. And you know what? Sometimes we're just not that interesting.
Yeah, no, right. Good people, fun people to be around with, but we don't have these depths and layers to us. I mean,
yeah,
that's the reality.
I'm a baby onion. I've got very few layers in my onion.
Baby onion. Let's see. So yeah, she calls him Bud Ugly in response. They pick up their conversation about what they're going to do with all the money, and this calls back to the chapter 9 conversation. He says he's going to go solve world hunger, and she's like, "No, don't you want to go get in a spaceship with a bunch of games, food, and you know, get out of Dodge, kind of thing." That's when he tells her that he loves her, and he tells her that she did the right thing by pulling away. And so they sat there for a while. They finally touch hands, and then she kisses him. And it was funny. There was a thing on Twitter the other day. Ready Player Two, the official Ready Player Two Twitter page, had said, "What's your favorite? What are your favorite quotes from Ready Player One?" And I think I put 3 on there. This was one of them.
Because you can't follow instructions.
I know.
What's your favorite quote from Ready Player One? Stand by while I give you 3.
Yeah. Let me copy and paste this. I have a document with it. But this one in particular, it says, "It felt like all those songs and poems had promised it would. It felt wonderful, like being struck by lightning." I mean, it's pretty simple, but just the fact that he's mentioning songs and poems, and we've gone through this whole book at this point of all these references and love songs and everything else. I just thought it was real poignant. But I really enjoyed that line. And then
So
the novel,
I find this poignant, this section poignant for a different reason, because I don't think this is particularly well written. Like, I don't think that, like, his description of this, it feels choppy, it feels awkward, and because of that, it feels exactly.
real.
It's almost, if you were to ask, middle school or high school me what that moment felt like, this is how I would write it. Like the first time that you were in love.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit corny, but trust me, young kids in love in the 80s and early 90s, we were corny as heck.
Yeah.
I've got a whole book full of terrible poetry that I wrote over there in 8th and 9th grade. Terrible.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I don't want to, like, I don't know if the criticism is fair, but and I don't know if they give him credit. Did he do this intentionally? Was it just his writing style? But I'm with you. When I read this, it's like these are things that I would expect, late high school kids, early 20s people to say and do. Right? I mean, this is how they act. That's how I acted. This is the corny stuff I said. So, maybe he did it intentionally. Who knows?
I just don't. I think people put too much stock into that, and I know this is kind of our recap episode. Also, is that it's not like he went into writing this novel thinking this is going to be a New York Times bestseller. This is going to be this. He went into this thinking maybe I can make enough money to buy a car because we just had our first child. Right? That's what he wanted to do, and so he was writing a book that was, in my opinion, the equivalent of a guy writing a diary, right? But integrating himself into a story that he wanted to be in, with populated with people he knew. So I just don't put a lot of stock into the criticism of the book, because I think it's like any medium where you have an artist where he's trying to convey a message. You have but one responsibility to me if you're an artist. I don't care if you're a musician, a painter, an author, or a filmmaker, and that is to make me emote, right? Make me feel something. And if at the end of the book, movie, song, you've done that, congratulations, you win, regardless of whether the emotion that was created was your intent
or not.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the doctor has spoken. All right, and the novel ends with, again, one of my favorite lines. It occurred to me then, for the first time in as long as I could remember, I had absolutely no desire to log back into the Oasis. And from that, I mean, there's some speculation there I've got too, like whether or not, how long does he go before he actually logs back into the Oasis? But I guess we'll find out here very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's the book.
And you picked the last line of the book as one of your favorite quotes.
Yep.
Now, I got to tell you, I think it is actually kind of corny. But, hey, it's kind of what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So I think my thing is look, I'm all about, hey, I'm in love. Because did they ever establish this is his first girlfriend? It can't be his first girlfriend, right?
No, I assume it is. Like, he never makes mention of any other girls in the novel, and he only knew her because she was, popular.
But they're not real.
Princess Leia.
And then he ordered that one thing.
Yeah, that one thing.
Oh, behave. That wasn't in the film.
Nope.
I cut those pages straight out of them. I'm gonna have to call Steven again.
In the script. What happened to that scene?
I don't know.
But no, I think this was his first one. I think. Well, I mean, again, assumptions being made here, but I think she was a little bit older, so he was still in high school. He was about to graduate. So
That'd be an incredible amount of temptation to know that I can get right back in the Oasis and be omnipotent. That's I'm not sure I'd be out of the Oasis long.
Even
Like,
if you were
honey,
in love.
I'm going to work. I'm in love now. I've got a wife. I go to work every day.
Yeah. You don't get in the
I'm
Oasis.
doing this. I could be laying in bed with her right now.
We
I've
thank her.
chosen to
We
drink
thank her
with
for
you,
that.
sir.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to do. So here's the thing about 38 and 39. When Will and I were breaking down the chapters and looking at all the pop culture in it, we realized, well, a few weeks ago, that there really isn't anything in either one of these chapters that we've not already spoken about or broken down. So we didn't want to end the show just on this note. So we thought we'd do kind of two things. One, I wanted to revisit just quickly some of the things that we called out as pop culture references that weren't directly referenced in the novel, and we made assumptions that they were. This is what he was talking about. Some of these I think were pretty spot on, like high probability, 99%, 90%, right? And then some of them are probably, I'm going to say sub tens, maybe, maybe one of them. But
At least one of them.
We'll review those, and then at the very end of the show, we're going to get into a list of all the stuff that we didn't see in the Ready Player One book. We may have seen it in the movie, but we didn't see it in the book that we felt like should have been called out. And I'll give you more on that in a little bit later, because this is not a criticism, because there's so much pop culture already in this book that he obviously could not get everything, right? So let's start with this one. So this was the Strategic Simulations Incorporated. I said that this was probably Gregarious Simulation Systems. It had the GSS versus the SSI. Someone made this logo here. This is not my doing, but I thought it was awesome because they fashioned it after the old SSI logo from the old computer games. And so, Will, if you could put a percentage on this one, what percentage would you say this was exactly what he was going at here when he came up with the name?
Yeah, I seem to recall there was an interview where he alluded to it, but I couldn't nail it down. But I'm still going to give it a 100%. I think this is a lock.
100%?
100%.
Okay. Let's talk about this one. This was the Princess Leia one, and the reference was the inside was sparsely decorated. A picture of Princess Leia posing with a blaster pistol, a group photo of the members of Monty Python, the Holy Grail costumes, and James Halliday's Time magazine cover. And so I've got pictures here of Princess Leia with
Yet
her
you don't
holding the
share
blaster.
them. You got to share them with us.
Oh my goodness! Hold on.
What's going
What am I
on
doing
here?
there? Let's go back. Here's
Yeah,
the
there you go.
SSI. Yeah, sorry. There's the GSS. Sorry about that. I forgot we were live.
Yep, I'm firing our showrunner. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. All right. Here's the Princess Leia. So I said it was the one on the far left, and this is her like full pose, hand on the hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. I don't know that it was one of the other ones here, but if you had to pick one that Parzival had hanging in his locker, which one?
Definitely far left.
Far left?
Far left.
Okay. 50-50 or phone a friend?
I'll poll everybody who's actually commenting right now. So I'm going to say the far left one.
All right. Let us know if you disagree or you agree with that one. Here's the Ludus. So this was this. Oh, wait, just hear me out. There's a school. The school is called, the planet is called Ludus, right? And we talked about it being Latin for school, game, or sport. But I found a British punk rock band from 1978 to 1984 that was called Ludus, and they were influenced by Morrissey and the Smiths. So, Will, if you had to put a percentage on whether or not Ludus was named in any way after this band, what would you say?
Albert, are you familiar with the term periodolia?
Yeah, I just had that removed, actually.
No, you haven't.
Recovered.
It's a condition wherein humans see patterns in things that don't actually exist.
Okay.
Or attempt to make linkages between two disparate thoughts that really aren't there. This, sir,
I don't understand how this applies here, but go on.
Oh, because this has nothing to do with that other than the word ludus. And because it has the word ludus, I'm going to say, just because the word ludus is in there, I'm going to give you 1.3%. It's terrible, bro.
1.3. So you're saying there's a chance.
I am saying there's a chance. That is terrible.
All right. Fine. Let me put this on. You said 100% on the GSS. And then Princess, I think what we were going to do is, if we got time, we were going to ask Ernie Klein about this when he comes on. Princess Leia, We said 100%. That was that one. Okay. This next one is not a this. I don't know if I have the balls to do this one, but this is not
You don't.
a reference.
You should let me do it, but I don't know really what I'm talking about because you have
No.
far more D&D knowledge than I have.
This was me calling Ernie Klein out because he was saying that Artemis was a dual class mage and fighter, and if you're a dual class mage and fighter, you can't cast Cure Serious Wounds or Barrier, at least per the Dungeons and Dragons rules. The only exception I'll make, or the only exception that we could make for him, is that because you're in the Oasis, you have the ability to do a lot more than that, right? You can, I don't know, maybe I don't know. I don't even want to try to explain it, but yeah, that was, it was jarring for me when it happened.
I find it interesting for the number of conversations you and I have had where you have turned to me and said, Will, this is about the suspension of belief, for just a bit.
Yeah.
This is the one that drove you over the edge, right? It wasn't all the other, hey, he just happened to know that song. And hey, look, there's a guitar. I can play it. Like, it was none of that. It was this. This did it for you.
This was the hill I'm dying on.
You are officially that guy who sits behind me at every Marvel movie premiere that is just like saying, that's no way that happened, right? There's no way they did that. That can't happen. That can't happen.
Yeah, that's probably true. I had Habishaw in here also, but I took it out because I think we talked about it, but Habishaw was referenced a few times, and that was from Armada. Let's see. Numero uno. Here's another solid one for me. I said, he makes a comment. He says, I don't want to be second in command. I said, I want your job, Sorrento. I want to be in charge of the whole shebang. Chief of Operations, El Numero Uno. Oh, and I want everyone to call me that. Call me El Numero Uno, too. Is that possible? This is, and I hyper-focused on Numero Uno, and I found this band Starlight, who came out in 1988. They're still around. They've had a number of albums out. But
I think you were about to say hits. I thought you were about to say hits.
They had one hit.
No, they did not have a hit.
They had one hit.
They didn't have no hit. They had no hits.
Not in the U.S. They were a house.
Uganda?
It was in Italy.
In the village of... It's like, come on, man.
It's in Italy. They're big dancing in Italy.
That's
all right. Well, yeah, it reached number 9 in the UK singles chart. And then later that year.
Okay. I stand corrected. That's a hit. Number 9, the singles charts?
In the UK. In only South Wales. No, I'm kidding. It's UK.
All right, cool.
All of UK. All right, what do you got on this? You got a percentage here?
Jeez, I'll give you 5%. That's the best I can do, bro. If you were a stranger, I would give you 0 points for this. And we are all dumber for having heard it.
Flashback to the pawn shop days. All right, here's the next one. 56K modem. The reference is Wade Owen Watts, born August 12th, 2026. Both parents deceased. And we also know where you are. You reside with your aunt in a trailer park located at 700 Portland Avenue in Oklahoma City, unit 56-K to be exact. And I said that 56K was likely referencing a 56K modem.
Agreed. I'm going to give you 80% because I don't know for sure, but I'm going to say that's good 85%.
85%. All right, I'll take 85%, putting 85% in my chart. All right, next one. This was when we got to talking about the, what was it? Joust? No, Roboton? Robotron. Yeah, it was Robotron. And the reference was Robotron allowed its all-time best player to enter an entire sentence of text beside their score instead of just their initials. And this machine's top dog had used his precious victory space to announce that Vice President Runberg is a total douchebag. So again, this was not so much a pop culture reference that we were calling out as being indirect, but one that was changed. So if you remember on the show, we talked about this in the book. Originally, it had this line here: Principal Runberg's a douchebag. When you got to the newer versions, right, the electronic versions and the ones that were printed after the movie, they changed the line to Rooney eats it. And I had said that I was trying to figure out why they would switch it. And I in the limited research that I did, I couldn't find anybody ever to ask them why he did this. But what I was able to find out is that the original Robotron arcade game did have a character limit of 20 characters. So if you were to put in Vice Principal Runberg is a total douchebag, you exceed the number of characters. So it may have just been a mistake or a flaw, and so he changed it to something smaller, shorter, and something that was more recognizable by us, right? Rooney eats it. It's pretty big moment there at the very end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So, yeah, there you go. This is another one where I feel like we probably should ask him if we got time.
Yeah, you got to ask
if this was the reason why he did it. But give me a percentage on why you think if this is the reason why he changed it.
So phrase the question for me. Are you saying they changed it because otherwise it would have been inconsistent with the number of characters that fell in?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought the issue was that reference doesn't make any sense to anything. Like, it's rare that he uses proper nouns throughout the book that don't have some meaning, and we couldn't create a meaning for the original text. I thought it was just a straight up miss. I thought he wrote that and meant to write Rooney and wrote Rumberg or whatever. I thought it was just a straight miss. But either way, I'll give you full credit for that. I'm going to go 99%.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very generous of you. Thank you. All right. The last one that we have is this guy, Mike Wilson. We brought him up. The quote is, "The IOI drone in the suit squeezed past the drop cops and gingerly pressed his thumb to my door intercom. His name and corporate title appeared on my display. Michael Wilson, IOI Credit and Collection Division, employee IOI 481231. And digging around, we found that there is a Michael Wilson that lives here in Austin. He's in the video game industry. He's been around since the 90s. Chances are Ernie Klein probably knows him, but this is, he was kind of instrumental in getting Daikatana out, I guess, if you want to call it that. He's now over at Devolver Digital. But yeah, I want to ask Ernie, like, do you know this dude right here? Because we think this is where you got Michael Wilson. But it could just be Michael Wilson's a pretty common name, too. So,
yeah.
Thoughts on percentages on that one?
As we covered in that previous episode, I still think he's talking about that Mike Wilson that likes hot wings in San Antonio, the sophomore at that high school that we looked at his Facebook page.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Could have been that guy. I'm just throwing it out there. There's options.
All right. What are you going with?
I'll go 60%. I think this is possible, but I couldn't find a linkage.
All right.
Other than he's an Austin guy, he's a tech guy, and a video game guy, and Ernie seems to know all of those guys in Texas.
Yeah. SP said 50%. Look, hey, sorry, I didn't see Imperial Moonwalker sneak in here. He said 90% on 56K. So
yeah, that's solid. Yeah. I could support that. I get behind that.
All right. So that's all we had as far as the references that were directs or some of the stuff that we called out as being questionable.
All right.
Let's get into all of the stuff that we didn't see in the read in the novel. And again, I want to preface this by saying this is not feedback. There are so many freaking references, and trust me, we know because we covered every single one of them to the nth degree. But there were things in here that didn't make it in that we felt were like, why didn't it make it in there? And there's probably some obvious reasons to that. But we thought it'd be fun just to kind of talk about and reminisce about some of those things before we get out of here, and then maybe think about whether or not we'd see these in Ready Player 2. The last thing I'll just say is that some of this stuff, again, was in the movie. So to be fair to Ernie Klein, because he didn't get it in the novel, he was actually able to get it into the movie. So again, we're only talking about the novel. So
that's right.
Doozies to start off with, by the way.
So I think you kind of nailed it. So the way I looked at this as I was going through this exercise, and we've kind of been keeping tabs as we've gone through each of these episodes about like, man, I can't believe we haven't talked about this and this wasn't brought up. But it's more about if I think that I almost went through this process as if I were writing Ready Player One, which pop culture references from the 80s would have to be in the book in order for it to be complete, right? Because otherwise, this list could go on for infinity. So with the little symbol that you like so much. All right.
Yeah.
So starting off is generic groceries. So I don't know if everyone in the US had this, but in the 80s, what I do remember is that generic groceries were a thing, right? And what was weird about them, like today, if you go to one of the grocery stores, they've got like store brands like Hill Country Fair and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's essentially the generic brand. But generic brands were usually 30 to 50% cheaper than the name brands. And all of them were completely white labeled. In fact, in San Antonio, they were white labeled and had a squiggly line across all of their stuff. And then it just said whatever it was. Ketchup.
Here.
This was before you even needed nutritional information on a label. It just said ketchup. Good luck. Right.
Right.
And you could get everything generic. But what was most fascinating to me when we were growing up is, let's say that you were looking for the generic ketchup. You couldn't go to the ketchup aisle well, and look through the hunts and stuff.
Nope.
All generic goods were on
One
the
aisle.
generic good aisle. That way, everybody who was affluent could see our poor broke asses walking down there to get imitation Frosted Flakes and a bag of rice that just said rice on the side of it. What do you remember about this, Albert?
Outside looks like the inside.
Right.
Same thing. I just remember like it was the walk of shame going down the white aisle to pick up whatever you needed for the groceries, and it just stood out. So it reminds me of like if you ever watched Lost. It's like I don't know if this is where they got the idea for the Dharma Initiative, right?
I think they did. Yeah, when I watched Lost, I thought that's exactly where they got that from.
This is all just generic stuff.
And all they've really done, generic brands still exist. They just created a fake generic brand to throw on there, like Hill County Fair. They put like a couple of colors so you don't feel like a hillbilly, when you're grabbing that stuff and bringing it up there. Like,
Right.
Sorry, man, I didn't want to pay the extra 20 cents for the mac and cheese, so I got this one.
Yeah. The 6-pack of beer for $1 versus like $8. But
That's right.
I didn't realize they made beer. That's sounds deadly.
Beer and light beer.
I didn't even see
them
that.
both.
There's light beer as well. Looks like they couldn't make up their mind on how to spell light either. So
Delicious.
yeah, no, I have fond memories of white labeled stuff. And why did they change? So, did you ever figure out why they changed it? Why they went away from the white labels?
No, so I think for this episode, I just wanted to talk, without doing all the nerd research. But I'm happy to do it. I actually have to consciously fight my inner OCD that wants to go out and do research on all of these things.
Yeah. All right. Here are some of the toys that we didn't hear get mentioned. You got some pretty good ones on here. Light Bright, Snoopy. So Light Bright, we were talking about the Snoopy SoCo machine, Care Bears, the Mattel Electronics Football 2, the what do you call it? The Hot Wheel or Hot Cycle? No, it's not Hot Cycle.
No, it is. That is. So I actually put things on this slide that I had growing up.
Oh, I was going to ask you, did you
that
have all these?
includes the Care Bear. I had a white Care Bear that was labeled Care Bear.
It's black. You got the generic version?
I got the generic Care Bear. No, actually, I did have a generic Care Bear because there was a girl who sat behind me in class, and her mom sewed Care Bears, and I liked her.
Didn't. She sewed bears.
They weren't like yeah. It was Care but with a K.
Yeah.
But she was pretty, and I liked her, so I told her I needed one for my sister. But as you know,
you don't have a sister.
I don't have a sister. So at one point, I did have a Care with a K bear. So anyway, this Hot Cycle here, I actually own this, right, growing up. And it had this cool siren right in the middle. So we were up in Massachusetts at the time. And I remember I'd hit this. I loved the siren. It would give the little woo thing, right? But we're like we had just had this huge snowstorm, and like everything was frozen, including my Hot Cycle, right? Which, of course, I called the big wheels because I didn't want people to think we were broke and couldn't afford actual big wheels, right? And you'd hit the siren when it was frozen. It would just make this god awful like sound. It was terrible.
Simulating the sound of running over small animals.
Right.
There's did you write little on there?
What?
It says little on there. Like
I didn't write anything.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's just like an ad out of a paper.
I gotcha. All right. Yeah. So this reminds me of like the big wheels. And I had the big wheels with the little handle, like the brake. So you can pedal in and pull that brake, you pull it back and you spin and wipe out.
I thought that was patented by Big Green Machine. I thought they were the guys, that was a step up from Big Wheels. So Hot Cycle was a step down from Big Wheels. And then Big Green Machine was like the OG. If you had that bad boy, you were the boss.
But yours had music or sound. Mine didn't have any sound. It was just a big wheel.
It was clearly just double-sided taped onto the center. It wasn't like there was an incredible amount of engineering. It wasn't talking back to me.
Right.
Kit.
You're going more than 2 miles an hour, Michael. There's a speak and spell.
Mm-hmm. Actually, just for the record, I still love Light Bright. Like if you had a Light Bright and you brought it to a party, I'm going to play with it. It's just something cool about making little images like that. I like it. I like the bright lights,
I like bright lights.
I like
shiny
bright
objects.
They were like little jewels.
We never had this Snoopy Stoco machine. That and like the only thing my sister had the Easy Bake Ovens, and I ate so much Easy Bake Oven stuff. Honestly,
yeah, I think each of my daughters has had an Easy Bake Oven, and they've progressed. Have you seen an Easy Bake Oven lately?
No,
Man, they are not messing around. It's damn near a microwave. I mean, it's still using a light bulb, but man, they figured the science out of that bad boy. They're making, you can make a cheesecake in it. You can do all kinds of things.
Lovely. And then I had let's see, I think I had all of. Well, I didn't have a Care Bear, but I had the Big Wheel. I don't know if I had Mattel Electronics Football 2 or I had the other one.
The football one, the white one.
No, the Coleco
like
one.
a loser.
Yeah,
You're the white one.
Coleco had one, and then Mattel had one. They were kind of competing with one another at the time.
So I recently bought one of these. Yeah, I bought one of these at I don't know if it was a Five Below or Big Lots in the last 2 years. And I don't know what I was thinking that this game was awesome, because I played it for like probably 22 seconds. It was like, what is happening? But I remember when I was a kid, like thinking, oh, did you see a pass?
No,
like, none of that's happening. Like none of it's happening.
It's literally a bunch of red dots, and you're just trying to move, and they're blinking. So it's like you blink at the wrong time, and your sync is off. Right, you run into somebody else. You're just moving that. You're just moving the dot line, and it keeps going. Doesn't it keep going like field after field after field?
No. You can get to the end zone, kind of. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's happening. I want you to know that Terrence has been making fun of me about my Light Bright party, but I'm going to tell you, it's a hot spot. It's a hot spot. You're going to want to be there. The alcohol's ridiculous. It's good times. There's going to be great music.
All right. The only other thing I was going to say about the Snowco machine was, we never had one. No.
Yeah.
All right. There was something else. I forget now. We're got to go. Let's talk about this just quickly. So these were some of the RPGs in the 80s that I recall playing that were pretty big. He mentioned Gamma World, and of course there's tons of Dungeons and Dragons references. And don't get me wrong, there's so many freaking RPGs that came out in the 80s because that was, kind of the golden years of tabletop role-playing games. Hey, you barista or bartender down there, keep it down, will you?
Am I making a lot of noise?
Jeez, man, I'm trying to do a show here. So there's Star Frontier. No, I'm just kidding. Keep doing what you're doing over there. Star Frontiers, Alpha Dawn. This was the science fiction role-playing game that TSR did, which I love to death. In fact, I still have a whole set of books back here. Don't ever play it anymore, and I'm actually part of a Facebook group as well. So shout out to those guys if they're watching or listening. They do some amazing stuff with reprinting these, and you can buy them now again. They're all out there, not from officially from Wizard or anybody else, but they've got another company that's putting these out now. So you can get the full set brand new. It looks amazing, hardback too. Paranoia was a West End Games. That was my first West End Games entry, and that was a really fun game where all you were trying to do is kill each other. They basically capitalized on what would happen naturally through every Dungeons and Dragons game. People would get pissed at each other and try to kill each other. They were like, you know what? We've got something there. Let's capitalize on that. And so they created this game called Paranoia, where you have these different clones. You roll a clone, and everybody is out trying to kill one another or at some point. And there's a lot more to it than that. But you just couldn't trust anybody that you were playing with, and that was really part of the fun. So had a great time with that one. And then the last one was just the Star Wars RPG. I credit most of my Star Wars knowledge prior to canon to this book and what the guys wrote for these things. This is so much fun to play. They've just re-released it. You can go out to Amazon. You can buy this and the source book together as a twin set now. It only uses 6-sided dice. It's super fast-paced and a lot of fun. Just really enjoyed it. But yeah, no mention of these. BattleTech is another good one.
Yep. It's those
Um,
Viewmasters. So I like the Viewmaster reference. We omitted that from the toys, but I still collect Viewmasters. But I do feel like it's part of my not 80s youth. Like it feels more like my 70s youth. But I still collect them. I have hundreds of Viewmaster discs. It's amazing to me. Yeah, dude.
What do
They
you
have
do?
one. No, you get them. They got it like a projector one. I bought that guy. Then they have one that has an app for your phone. There's all kinds. I'll say, guess what? Merry Christmas. I've got like 4 of them. I'm going to give you one. Because anytime I find one at a thrift store, for some reason, I'm obsessed with buying them. And a little RPG trivia for you. You may recall this, but the very first time I ever went to your house, the very first time that we ever hung out, we played Paranoia and Star Wars.
Really?
Yep. The very first time I went to your house, that's what we did. We sat out in the garage and we played those games.
Nice. I don't remember that, but yeah. I
Well,
believe you.
I'm glad that the day we hung out together for the first time was so memorable for you, Albert.
It was a long time ago. All right, here's the some of the pop that wasn't mentioned, and I got to think some of this comes down to like these are some pretty big names in the '80s, and I wonder if Klein was just worried or something that he couldn't use them, or maybe there's some reason he couldn't. But Madonna, Michael Jackson, you got Prince, Bruce Springsteen, U2, and again, this list can go on and on and on. But I mean, these are kind of some of the big staples in the '80s pop culture, pop music at the time. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something we can ask him too, or whether he's a fan of these. But if you had to pick one of these as your favorite, or let's say if you had to rank them out of the 5 here, which is number one?
It's got to be. So if we're talking about as it relates to 80s and influence in the 80s, I'm going Jackson, Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Prince, and U2. Not in the order I like them in, but I'm just saying pop culture influence.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm drinking New Coke as part of my...
Is that the last one?
It's the last of the New Coke, sir. It's like popping a bottle of champagne for the last show. I'm cracking open the last of the New Coke.
I have Bruce Springsteen number one for sure. And then beyond that, oh boy, probably Michael Jackson. Then I'm going to go U2, Madonna, Prince. That's how I'd go. It wasn't, yeah. I like Madonna's early stuff, but I didn't really like the stuff that she was doing in the 90s.
Well, I was just talking 80s.
Yeah,
like
80s
I know. Influence.
Okay, here's some of the TV that we felt might have been absent. So top left-hand corner, this is Head of the Class. That had a song, Future So Bright, Have to Wear Shades by Timbuk2. Or is it Timbuk 3?
No, there's 3. It's 3. You shorted them. You shorted them.
Sorry, I didn't mean, yeah, shorted one. Timbuk 3. They did the song to this one, but that's got Ricky from Better Off Dead down here. You can kind of see him here. It's from Better Off Dead. Sorry, Ricky, your mom blew up. It's got Lisa Robin Gibbons as well. I'm trying to think who else was in there that made it well or did well.
That chick did well. I can't remember what she was in. The red-haired chick. She was in a movie or two.
Yeah. We got Happy Days up here. No reference to that. That was kind of a 70s into the 80s thing, though. Much like Laverne and Shirley and...
But it's hard not to give them credit for that because syndication was just starting to be big. So, I mean, we routinely watched Happy Days through the 80s, at least through the mid-80s, along with Three's Company. I watched that almost every day. And Laverne and Shirley. Hello, Laverne.
Hello.
That was my least favorite thing about basic training. No, when I went to basic training, they gave you, they give you the buzz cut.
Yeah.
And so I had like this little widow's peak. So I looked just like Squiggy when I first joined the military. Hello, Laverne.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that. I got to find those pictures. Perfect Strangers. We didn't get nothing there. That was a pretty big show. Pretty
of course we didn't. Don't be ridiculous.
Three's Company. That was a pretty what do I want to say? Cutting edge show.
It was.
I mean, they were really walking the line with what was socially acceptable on TV.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Too much coffee. Laverne and Shirley. Again, these are all just favorites of mine, to be honest, except the middle one. But I'll come to that in a second.
And you do have 2 spin-offs from American Graffiti up here. Yeah. So you didn't plug the Star Wars tie-in. You could have done that whole thing.
Well, Ron Howard.
Well, yeah, you could have gone Ron Howard, or you could have gone Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Yeah, you could have gone. You could have gone American. Yeah,
American Graffiti.
Yep.
Dynamite Magazine. Did we talk about Dynamite Magazine and Hot Dog?
I think you were just talking about chips here.
Dynamite I know, but what? Did we ever talk about Dynamite Magazine?
We did have an embarrassing conversation where you explained to me how you liked teen
Tiger
magazine
Beat?
Tiger Beat. We're not going to talk about that again. That is ridiculous. I have never.
Oh man,
look. I'm all about it. If that's your thing, go right ahead. But there's no reason to have it. None.
It's the only place I could get pictures of Debbie Gibson. That's my excuse.
What?
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't in like Dynamite and Hot Dog magazines were gone. Like I don't what maybe they weren't gone. I think I was just old enough at that point where I couldn't buy them. She probably came out on Dynamite and Hot Dog, which were Scholastic magazines, right? But by that point, I was too old, so I wasn't getting the Scholastic. This is like 6th, 7th grade, so I was like trying to find pictures of her to hang up on my wall, and I had to pick up Tiger Beat and Pop something. I don't remember what the other one was. Or all these little, and I was like the only dude run around these magazines in my arms with RPG books and dice in my pocket. Oh, it was a sad sight, folks.
Billy,
yeah,
have
but
you ever
anyways.
seen a grown man hang Debbie Gibson posters on his wall?
Ever been in a Turkish prison? There's Chips. Here's another show that I grew up with watching. Mom liked it a lot because of what's his face there.
Yeah,
This guy.
Poncharelli. So for those that don't know, that dude was like a famous actor in Mexico. Eric Estrada was famous in Mexico, both before and after Chips. So, for the generation before ours, they loved him. He was in this show called Dos Mujeres, Un Camino, right?
Two women on the road?
Yeah.
Two wives on the road.
Mujeres,
Okay.
Un Camino. And I'd watch it because the same reason all guys watch novellas.
Because your wife watches them.
No, because Cast is hot. You could mute that and watch some novellas, man. It just
I thought you could say because grandma watched them.
that was before the internet, sir. You had to make do with what you could find.
Yeah.
I've got a Bell's catalog. I've got it's whatever resource was available to you.
No Wonder Years. Yeah, that one would be tough though because that Wonder Years was kind of that was an 80s show that was a throwback to the 50s, right? I mean, it was telling or 60s, I think, right?
Yeah, but I will say that Winnie might have been the first TV like
Crush?
I'm in love with her. Yeah. Like
Mine was Alyssa
in
Milano.
fact, if you think about it, like the whole end chapter 39 love thing reminds me of the awkwardness of their first kiss scene. Yeah. Really awkward but sweet at the same time. That's how I envisioned it, except it had the music. When I read chapter 39, it had the music of 16 Candles when he's like by the car and she opens up the door and Molly Ringwald walks out to that dude. That's what played in my head when I read chapter 39.
No Doogie Howser. That's a good one too.
Yeah, I actually recently made my girls watch Doogie Howser. That one dude that was in it, like his best friend was like 37.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was old. Really old when he was in that show. What's his name?
Crazy.
Vinny?
Vinny, yeah.
Yeah, pulled that one out of nowhere. Hey! I can't remember how he talked. I can't remember. He was like a stereotype of an Italian. Hey!
I didn't even realize you were doing a voice there.
That was me. Yeah, I was trying to do Vinny.
We never got.
Here's the Power Rangers. So the Power Rangers, I put them in there just because they didn't come up. I mean, now granted, the Power Rangers in the U.S. didn't come out till the 90s, but Super Sentai, that's been around since like 80. I want to say early 80s, like 82 maybe even the 70s. If it was 70s, it had to be like 78, somewhere around there. But the Super Sentai show had been out in Japan for a number of years. We got them finally in the 90s, like 92 when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out. So they were already in the like whatever 15th, 16th season at that point. But nonetheless, even in the 80s, much like we talked about, if you were going to like anime clubs and stuff like that, and you're watching all the tokusatsu type shows and trading VHS tapes and everything, this always came up. And it was huge in Japan, and obviously became very successful here in the U.S. for as many number of seasons they had once it came over. But no real direct mention of the Power Rangers, which I thought,
at least in the Padilla household, it was quite huge.
Oh, it was huge, absolutely. All right, here's some cartoons. And again, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. These were just some that I really enjoyed and thought I'd throw them on here. So Gem and the Holograms, I really enjoyed this cartoon. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I enjoyed the animation, and I enjoyed the music.
Just kicking back with my Tiger Beat, watching Gem.
Yep, drinking a new Coke.
That's my best friend.
There's so the music in the cartoon I thought was really good. You had the Misfits and you had Gem and the Holograms, and they would go back and forth, and they were done like music videos whenever they would come on. It was like the height of MTV kind of thing. So if you've never seen it, probably don't want to watch it unless you're kind of weird.
Hey,
but
You got to, because Jim is excitement.
Jim is
Jim is adventure.
fashion and fame. And so I named the very first episode that we did of the basement. I called it Showtime Synergy, and it was named after Jim and the holograms because I knew that they hadn't referenced it, and I liked the show. Inspector Gadget, like that one, I don't know. Like some people have never. Like, I'm surprised how many people didn't see Inspector Gadget or weren't fans of it. It seemed like it was all over the place. Yeah, I've met people personally, but
yeah, and I wasn't a huge fan of it at all. But I mean, it was okay. But I'd rather watch Danger Mouse than watch Inspector Gadget. I think we covered that.
I didn't.
Before.
Yeah, I was going to put that one on here, but I
pinfold.
The Turtles. No mention of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that's a curious one for me. I'll say that the Turtles really took off probably around like mid to late 80s is when that cartoon came out, but they were around prior. I mean, Eastman and Laird were doing those comics early 80s, and they were really popular in comic shops, and because they were much more violent than it was an indie. It wasn't a Marvel. It wasn't DC. It was an indie. It was like one of the first indie publishers. And they were really violent, and that's what I gravitated to. It's like, wow, I can't get this anywhere else. And then when they came out with this, I was like, what in the world? It's like not even like the cartoon. But I actually did enjoy this cartoon, and they actually spawned a number of good video games as well. But what are you trying to say?
No, same thing. Is that I remember when we were in 6th grade, this was like the original comic book, the Laird comic book was passed around everybody. There was always like one guy who randomly had it, and it just got passed around to everybody. Like we didn't know where it came from. It looked like it was some underground thing that wasn't even like properly published. But yeah, I think I went through that same love-hate because they weren't distinct in the comic books, right? There wasn't like, a dude with a bow staff and then a dude with, some
that was done for the cartoon. I mean, they had their like weapons of preference, but they used all weapons, every one of them interchangeably, and they all wore the same color. They were always wearing red masks or the red headband kind of, or skull caps.
And virtually every character that you had in the cartoon, Bebop, Rocksteady, they're all killed like in the first comic.
Yeah, they were just made. Yeah, and it kind of goes with the not to get into the origin, but it's very similar to the cartoon. But they were cranking out these things with the ooze and making just all kinds of mutant animals. And so you had an army of these things, so it didn't matter. They died left and right. But yeah. Anyways, I thought the cartoon was actually really good. Like that did a really good job with the cartoon, even though it was a bit of a departure from the comic book, and I get why they did that. So, especially the intro song, it was pretty catchy. Mask is our brother Alex. This is like one of his favorite cartoons. Another one, the other one that I didn't put on here that's one of his favorites is Jason the Wheeled Warriors. But again, I just didn't have enough room. But Mask was one that we lived for, man. I mean, I can't. He loved it. He loved it more than I did. But I really enjoyed this cartoon quite a bit. And hopefully they make hopefully it comes out in Ready Player 2. Did you watch Mask?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mask is one of my favorites. In fact, Mask is. I could probably write a book on corporate management using mask theory. Like if I could write an academic article on it, because really that's all that management is. You have this huge deck of cards of all these different people with different skills. And it's really just about evaluating whatever mission you have and then assigning the right people with the right skill sets to address that issue. And that's basically all every episode of Mask was. So it was always exciting to see which people were going to get invited.
If you maybe I'll blow your mind on this one. Hopefully, if you know what I'm talking about, I will. But Mask is still around today. It's just called the Paw Patrol. It's the exact same thing.
You get it? Just stop.
It really is.
Stop.
Ryder and his pups are here to save the day. And Ryder,
get out of your house.
Ryder,
you've been working from home too long. Please just go in public and meet adults. You don't have to do this anymore, Albert.
Hold on, listen. So he's got to call on these people to save the city, right? So the Pup City's in trouble. He's got Chase. He's got I'm drawing a blank now on the name. Sky. All right,
you've done enough damage.
It's the same thing though. He's got to pick the right team to go save the city in Paw Patrol.
So
same thing as Mask.
I thought they had cancel cultured the Paw Patrol because they had law enforcement representation.
No, they didn't. It was. I mean, there was a lot of talk about it, but I don't think any of it was really confirmed.
Wow, you're like
Uh,
really up on your Paw Patrol now.
yeah. Well,
No, there was a rumor about it. I mean, they filed suit in the 7th district, but it was quickly overturned.
yeah. There's there's a reference of Transformers as well. It was one of the reasons. Yeah, exactly. Terrence right. That's why we brought Jeremy on when we talked about it. I think it was more than meets the eye. Maybe
There are several, but none of them are direct. So the word transformer is not said in the novel. Neither is Autobot or Decepticon, but I think there's 3 indirect references that we've covered in the past.
Yeah. Albert needs to go to Vegas to meet some adults. Yep.
That's right. I just got back from Vegas. There's plenty of adults there, properly social distance and everything. But bro, you got
look. Vader's girl. She watched Paw Patrol tonight. Am I right? All right.
I don't know who awesome. I don't know who she is. So for
she's a plant.
You don't know. Yeah, she's a plant. There's someone needs to put Vader's girl to bed. Maybe she's young. like maybe that's a picture of her mom. You don't know that. She's just like, I like Paw Patrol.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
True.
I'm kidding. Vader's girl.
She's a real person. All right, back to the cartoons. I got Silverhawks, Thundercats, and then there's another one called Tiger Sharks. And I don't know if you guys.
I have never heard of that cartoon. That's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut. Go look it up.
No, I believe Albert. I'm not doubting you. Calm down.
I'll throw down right now.
You want to go? Just how big a boy are you? Silverhawks, I thought was always an underrated cartoon. I love the Silverhawks.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember I used to ask for Silverhawks like action figures, and did they even make them?
Yes, they did.
I've never even actually seen one before.
No, they did. And you know where we got them when they went to like kind of like the Big Lots at the time. It was what was it called? The Big Lot wholesale place. It was like Mackenzie or
which one? Back in the 80s?
Yeah, back in the 80s.
TG&Y?
No, well that was
Kmart?
No.
Cheaper than that?
Oh, geez. It started with an MK, like Mc something. It was like a Scottish
McDougal's?
McDowell's. They got the Big Mick or Big Mac. I got the Big Mick. No, it's not. Dang it. I can't think of it. Okay, so no, stop it. There was one called
that was a store? Why are you berating me? Stop yelling at me, sir. I'm very scared.
Pick and Save. Do you remember Pick and Save?
I do remember.
Okay, McFrugals. That's the name. I just remember.
McFrugals.
Okay, McFrugals had the Silverhawks all on clearance, and so we got all of them for like $1 a piece or something, and we played with the toys. Boy, that was a lot of wind up for that.
Jeez.
Trivia.
Nicely done.
But so Thundercats was obviously their big one. Silverhawks was probably a close second. I know where you're going though, because I know you used to do this, and I'm not asking you. You don't need to do it on the spot. You used to do the Copper Kid from Silverhawks, like his voice.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. So.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah, probably best that you don't. Have another drink, and I'll come back to you in a little bit here.
That's right. I'd rather do Campro.
And then there was they did a third one called Tiger Sharks, which was same concept, but they were underwater and they were all like based on fish and mammals and stuff. And that one didn't last very long. Aquatic mammals is what I meant. That one didn't last as many. I don't think it had many seasons. Maybe only one, to be honest. But all of these cartoons were awesome because, again, this was really an introduction for us as Americans to a lot of the animation that was coming out of Japan and other places that we were spoon-fed the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and we're seeing this stuff going, my gosh, this is amazing looking. All right, and we talked about He-Man. I mean, that one is one that was referenced in the movie. He had the He-Man lunchbox in one scene there. I put Visionaries on here, and again, I'm going to get into a rabbit hole or I can get down into the weeds of these, like Visionaries, Inhumanoids, the robotics cartoon. A lot of these were all coming out of that. They were just puppy milling these things right out of these companies to really just capitalize on anything and everything that was going on. But the Visionaries stood out to me because I just liked the holograms, and that was when holograms were real big. We had the holograms on them. The Transformers had them, where you didn't know if they were Autobot or Decepticon, but if you touched it,
those are awesome.
It would reveal. But yeah, there was a lot of toys, but I think these guys really capitalized on the whole movement of putting holograms on toys.
Was that a thing you liked? I do recall one year I got a Visionaries toy for like my birthday or something, and I was woefully disappointed because that's a trash license.
It's probably Alex may have gotten it because I think he was a big fan. He may have bought you that
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not tell him about that comment then. I want to ruin Thanksgiving.
And then the last one is Mighty Orbots, and this one holds a special place in my heart because one, I really enjoyed the intro. There's a pattern here. I got caught up on the intros for a lot of these cartoons, but this one, and I think I have the intro out on our YouTube page. If you go out there, it's under one of the sections. I've got this one on there, but this is actually a cartoon that was made for the U.S., but they brought in all these, and I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but they brought in all this powerful talent from Japan that had really were successful in every one of their fields to make anime in Japan. They hired them, brought them over here to put out an American-based and a cartoon with these guys behind it. And the animation is phenomenal. I really like it. The intro is really great. The voice acting is really great. It only ran one season. It was not popular, but again, they were trying to capitalize on Transformers and GoBots and Robotech and Voltron and everything else. So I mean, they were going up against a lot of competition, but I thought it was really cool that they went to the effort of trying to really stack the talent behind this cartoon. Anyways, it stood out for me. All right. This is just this was again. This is one that made it into the movie with Kaneda's bike. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie.
This movie. I've seen this movie a billion times. There's just, and I would say that. So if we were to go through this, so a lot of the things that we covered in toys and things we covered in TV are things that were probably important to us. But some of these, and I think some of the ones we're going to get to, as we go through this, I think are just big misses. Which is why this was obviously picked up in the movie, in my opinion, because this is a big '80s miss. If you're talking about influential '80s animation, this is it.
Yeah. It doesn't get any bigger than this, honestly. This was the big boy. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get this. Let's pull the Band-Aid off on this one.
Okay, so
we brought it up before, but go on.
Yep. So I do not understand. When I think of the '80s, there was a whole subculture of b-boys, breakdancing, hip hop music, rap music was coming to its prime. It was starting to splinter into a whole bunch of different formats, and a rap is only referenced, count them one time, in Ready Player One, just once. And who he uses rap to describe?
Falco, Australian
rap artist Falco is what they have in the book.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on in Illinois at the time. I don't know. They had some kind of
Ohio.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Falco ain't rap. I get that's not rap. Blondie's not rap. Falco's not rap. These dudes are rap. Beastie Boys, huge Fat Boys. I give them. I was never into Fat Boys, but still,
I put them on there.
Yeah, LL for sure. Right, Run DMC all day influential in the '80s. It was driving pop culture and MTV, and then of course Will Smith. At the time was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, but still, I mean, there are so many rap and hip hop references that could have accidentally get thrown out. There is not one nod to this culture in Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that? You got a theory?
No, outside of him, just not. Maybe he wasn't a hip hop fan. There was plenty of people out there that were living the '80s and into pop music and heavy metal and glam and all that, and didn't want anything to do with rap. It was a new thing, and again, not everybody bought into it. Today, it's like you can't escape it. It is the number one music style, whatever, out there. So yeah, that would be my only guess. I think if it does come up at Ready Player 2, there's so much fashion behind rap and hip hop that would be a way to kind of, put it in the book without actually talking about, quoting a song or quoting an artist in some way. I mean, you look at right here, you've got tons of fashion, the gold chains, the Kangos, the Adidas. We talked about that when we got to the Adidas stuff. Fresh Prince's style was, kind of what took us into the 90s at that point. So yeah, I think there's a way to do that. I wouldn't put the Fat Boys in there as far as fashion goes, but I did throw them in there because they were the king of beatboxers, in my opinion. I always enjoyed the raps. I remember in '86, I went to Michigan for a summer, for about a month, and I took 2 tapes with me. Well, no, I took 3 tapes. I took LL Cool J's Walking with the Panther.
Walk Like a Panther.
No, it's not Walk Like a Panther.
Walks Like a
That's
Panther.
like Walk Like a Egyptian.
I know it's Walks Like a Panther, isn't it?
I thought it was Walking with the Panther.
Oh, maybe it is.
No, let's look it up.
I got you. Go ahead, keep talking.
All right, so if I took LL Cool J's Walking with the Panther, if that's right.
Here's Walking with the Panther. Yes, Walking
and
with the Panther.
George Strait Greatest. Did I get it?
Yeah,
You
did. Congratulations.
George Strait's Greatest Hits Volume 2 and the Fat Boys, and it's the one they did with Chubby Checker. So Chubby Checker came out from retirement to do a song with him, and they released that album. It was like a surfing album. I forget what the name of it is. I don't know, but yeah.
So Stargate brings up a good point. How are we, you and I, independently going to define rap? So how are you defining rap? Because Falco is putting things together in a 2-2 sonnet verse format, which would be consistent with rap music, especially in Rock Me Amadeus, right? But it's not rap. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell Stargate why right here, because it's how I define rap. You see, rap isn't about just being some music genre or some, alliteration technique. For rap to exist, it's a culture. It's a movement. All right. It's a message. Like Grandmaster Flash said back in the day, this is the message. It is rooted deep in urban hip hop culture. So you can't separate fashion from hip hop and rap any more than you could take the country guitars away from country singers. It's the same. It's inherent to the music. The end. How do you define rap, Albert?
I think Kid Rock said it best. What you just did right there.
Kid Rock.
That wasn't Kid Rock. I'm just joking.
Is that what Kid Rock sounds like? I don't even. No, that can't be.
I don't know.
Can't be.
Who were you quoting there?
I don't know. I just was talking. I quoted myself.
Sorry. I thought you were reading something.
Oh no.
Will Wilkins, everyone. I don't know. I define rap as what I was breakdancing to.
Did you ever breakdance to Falco or Blondie?
No, never did breakdance to Falco or Blondie.
Nice. Hey, so is Digital Underground? Was that?
The Humpty Dance came out. Yeah, Humpty Dance came out 89, maybe.
Yeah, late 80s. All right, stop what you're doing, because I'm about. That isn't my karaoke safe songs. So if we go to a bar, that
is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not talking about lyrically safe.
Oh no, I just mean like if I'm drinking, I can always do Humpty Dance. Like I know all the words. I don't need to read them. So if my vision's blurred, we're good.
We're good. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it was 80. I looked it up. I called it 89.
Nicely done again. You're on a roll tonight.
Yeah, well, sometimes you get it. Movies.
The movies. Now, we've talked about some of these before, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about some of these, and especially my biggest omission is Princess Bride, because, for your Jim and Tiger Beat, I love The Princess Bride. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It used to be on my guilty pleasure list, but I'm old enough now where it's not even that. It's just a great, great movie. It's well written. It's well acted. I love every part of that story. It should have been in there. So I took an inventory at work amongst the guys I work with, and I was kind of talking about this episode, and I was like, give me, if you were thinking of movies that define the 80s for you, that would have to be in a book about 80s movies, what would they be? And to a person, every one of them in their top 3 had Fast Times and E.T. in them.
Really?
Right. Now, granted, I work with a bunch of dudes, so.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah. No, there's, I'm trying to think like what, with E.T., why he was, I wouldn't say he was hesitant, because he certainly used, like he did kind of stay away from some of the Steven Spielberg movies, like Close Encounters. He mentions Jaws. No, he didn't mention Jaws either. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That would be a great question as to why he intentionally omitted those. Much like the pop people that we talked about, like Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson. Maybe he just steered clear of those. It's funny you had Purple Rain in here too, because we talked about names.
So, and and JR's right. Karate Kid not being in there seemed like really weird. You know what? And so I was looking at that because I was doing research and I was looking at these films and I'm like, there's just no way. And so the Karate Kid, E.T., those are the two films I'm like, there's got to be, like, I'm like thumbing through my notes and our show notes and I'm going back through some of the chapters. I'm like, there's just no way. I'm doing queries of every keyword in the movie against the text on, Google Books. You know how often the word karate appears in this book?
0.
0. What? Man, half the 80s was me doing karate, running around the living room, chopping up things and throwing stars all over the house and making holes all over the walls.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what? You can't
Yeah,
make
and
it.
then we had all the I want to say exploitation movies, but Sho Kazugi was out there cranking out movies every 6 months, like
Yeah.
Ninja 2, Ninja 3, The Domination. You had Jim Cotta that came out. I mean, there was a craze of these movies that were just flourishing right out of Hollywood during that time, early 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah, so the word karate appears 0 times. Kung fu appears 1 time. And when he's referencing kung fu, he's talking about verbal kung fu. He's not actually talking about kung fu, which for an 80s, I mean, I'm not kidding, man. I had a ninja gi when I was a kid. In fact, I was probably too old, like way older than I needed to be. I had like a sword I had made out of like a survey stick piece of wood that had the orange tape at the bottom of it. Yeah, man. I sharpened that bad boy up on a brick in my backyard. It was going down.
This was one that there was just a lot of movies. There's
just
so many that we could have included, but I don't disagree with any of these here.
But I will say this: when it came to sci-fi, if you look at the most influential late 70s, 80s sci-fi movies, man, he has got them on lock, like virtually all of them. And so I was looking for the biggest sci-fi miss, and the reality is, I think he nailed it. Like even deep cuts, like They Live, Chud. There's so many of those in the book, and they're nuanced right there. A lot of them aren't like direct. Let me talk about the movie. Which is what I like best about his writing. He doesn't see the need to have to explain every reference to us. Of course, that also leads you to Albert here, who just assumes everything means everything.
It does. Half the time, Will's got to talk me down. He's like, "No, that's not what."
That doesn't make sense at all. Did you see, like, when he said the? Do you think he meant the, like, as in the Power Rangers? I don't know.
American Anthem. Get out of here. I saw that movie when it came on HBO. It's actually not a bad movie. Okay, the gear. Talk about the clothing here.
Yeah, so this is a weird thing. So I was doing Underoos research at the office today, and I'm thinking, I can't even find one of these photos I feel comfortable posting up here. Maybe that's what happened to Underoos. Maybe we just can't advertise children in underwear anymore. There's a bunch of freaks and creeps running around.
Yeah.
So,
but when we were growing up, there was commercials with this.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh my God, I can't believe. Yeah. So Underoos, what happened there? Where did they go? So I had both the full-on Spider. I had this exact Spider-Man that he's wearing. But I also had the one that was just a T-shirt and the chones that this other kid's wearing. But I hate that I'm even describing the underwear that a child's wearing on the internet. I feel like the FBI is going to come through the window any second now. We've looked at your search history.
Yeah, looking at
it's happening.
This was big though. Like this was a big deal. Like to get Underoos in the 80s, it was huge.
Yeah,
never had them. You had the. What did you call these here? The Nike ones. I didn't. I had the knockoffs, right? So
it was just Nikes, right? So this was just Nike's first line of shoes. So I just threw them up there because, we're eventually going to get to the Jordans, and we talked about just about every major clothing manufacturer. We talked about Converse, Chuck Taylors. We talked about Pumas. We talked about Adidas, and not one mention of Nike throughout. Not one. Seems odd. That's really the transitional period for athletic wear when Nike just, by the time it was 88, it was over.
Yeah. You got the pullover sweaters?
I do. With the pop collar, you got to do both. Like if you don't have a character in a movie, like that's how you knew who the bad guy was. A, pastels. 2, wraparound sweater. And then pop collar. And the boss of them was the dude with the double polo pop collar. That guy was definitely the baddest prep guy who was going to ruin the protagonist's day.
Yep. Kazi sweaters.
Yep. Circle gets the square, JR. That's exactly what those are. You know, when I'm going to put on the sweaters before I give you a drink.
That guy.
Like, you can't even talk about Bill Cosby anymore. What happened? Well, I mean, I know what happened.
Yeah, we know what happened. He did some terrible things.
He did.
Really
He's
horrible.
a terrible, terrible person, apparently.
Yeah, but during the 80s, he was our dad, our Mr. Huxtable.
Yep.
And then we've talked about this one on the show. I think it was early on, one of the first episodes we did. We were talking about parachute pants. I don't remember the context of it, but it wasn't referenced that I remember in the novel.
Yeah, no.
But this would go hand in with the rap and hip hop scene.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That omission of that entire subculture.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's going to be Ready Player 3.
Sweet.
You know?
All hip hop rap.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
going to
it.
be Wade in the Hood, and it's just going to be nothing about. He's just going to go. He's going to be stuck on some planet hip hop.
We'll make this one just quick. This is some games that we felt like probably should have been included, but weren't. The TurboGrafx 16, simply because if you were into side-scrolling shooters or into Japanese games, this was kind of like the system to have.
And
early on.
RPGs, if you had the Turbo CD. So if you wanted to play Wise, Turbo had a great port of this. As you know, I collect TurboGrafx games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have every American Hue card and probably about 30 imports, complete in box. And I still believe the Turbo Express was the best portable game system ever created. I used that in fact, I used it all the way up until we converted over our TV stations, right? When we went all digital, because it had a TV tuner that plugged into it, that frickin' Turbo Express, and you could just like watch TV on it. You could play games on it, and the games were freaking pretty well done.
Yeah, one of the TurboGrafx that you had, I think, was one I gave you right before you went to the military. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I know you were using it out there. And I think I had the TV tuner with it. Those things sell for a pretty penny these days.
Yeah, you can get them. There's still like group set where they refurbish them and the whole thing. But I will tell you, when my wife and I moved into our first home, the only TV we had was our Turbo Express TV. We would just sit on an air mattress and watch TV on the Turbo Express.
That's awesome.
Good times.
The Game Boy, not mentioned, and this was the second most selling console of all time. So kind of a big omission in my opinion, but there's a lot of games there too. We're not going to get into all the games there. And then obviously the Power Glove. I mean, this screams like Ready Player 1 or Ready Player 2 of this culture. But no direct reference, at least, to the Power Glove.
Jared's right. Power Glove. It's so rad.
The games. So I got a couple games up here. Most of these are RPGs, and I don't. That probably speaks to maybe Ernie's interest. Maybe he wasn't into them as much as some of the action side-scrolling games. But I've got Zelda, and that's really that entire series. Zelda, Link, from the NES. We've got Final Fantasy. That's the original Final Fantasy, at least here in the U.S. It's here in the middle. Bottom left-hand corner is Dragon Warrior, which was another big game in here, but probably much larger in Japan. And then I put this picture here at the bottom in the middle there. That's same thing. Final Fantasy is kind of one in the middle there, but that's the picture of the Lich. So I figured that'd be poignant since there's a Lich in Ready Player One. And then I had Sonic on here. Now Sonic did come out early '90s, but who knows? I mean, he is one that showed up in the movie. Like there's a scene there when they're early on in Ready Player One where you can see Sonic walking. So they did go back and include him. So I imagine he was important to Klein's growing up and the influence of Sonic the Hedgehog. But
and he did get a reference in the book, as we covered before.
Sonic did?
Yeah, he does. But I think Sonic gets mentioned by name in the book. I know that. Remember we had this. We were doing the debate. Oh no, he doesn't. I lie.
I think he had a dream.
I did. It was a dream built upon the American dream. That one day on the red hilltops of Georgia, a black man and a white slave owner could sit down at the table of brotherhood and drink from the cup of peace.
Very nice. Well done.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any other games? I mean, there's so many of them. Honestly, this is kind of a loaded question, really.
No, that's it. But I will
here's a good
say
one.
that if you've got all the Dragon Warrior, if you've got like an A plus, like a WATA graded 8 or better, A plus rated sealed Dragon Warrior, they go anywhere from like $1,200 to $1,600. You can put that in the bank. Yeah, not a cheap game.
That's nuts.
But I mean, if you got one loose, it's not worth as much. But I mean, if you've got everything, like complete maps, it's good.
Yeah. Terrence brought up a good one, Castlevania. Simon Belmont.
Yeah. Indeed.
In Alucard, which is just Dracula backwards, but whatever. All right. And we'll end the show on this one. So
biggest omission in history. Look, I'd say it's Mega Man, but Mega Man is, a Rockman and stuff because that is my favorite video game and video game character of all time. But you can't write a book about the 80s and not mention Super Mario.
Oh, he did.
He did. I'll tell you right now, I better be in Ready Player 2. I'm going to set fire to the book as soon as I'm done with it. You have better mention the Red God when you talk about this. Well, that sounded terrible. But Mario, when you think about it, we covered this last episode, so I'm not going to go on my full rant. I'm just going to say, look, there is nothing that had more influence on pop culture in the 80s than Mario. No movie, no film made more money than Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers 3. Both of them, in terms of gross, were incredible. Like billions with the B, we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, man, I'm not. You got to put it in there.
Yep.
Why did JR do that? Swing your hips
from side to side.
Come on, it's time to go.
Do the Mario. Take one step
and then again.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Why is that in my hard drive? Like I don't remember where I went to elementary school, like the name of the school, because somehow Captain Lou took over that portion of my hard drive. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we lived for this show simply because it was the only place. I think I mentioned this in the show. It was the only place we could watch the Legend of Zelda cartoons.
Yeah.
They would do it like once a day, every Monday through Thursday. They would do a sneak peek of the Friday episode, and then Friday, when you got to Friday, you got to watch the episode. So yeah, I would agree. I mean, Mario Brothers, it was inescapable during the 80s. There've been lots of studies out there done where they take these famous characters and they put them in front of kids and ask them to recognize them. He is up there with like Mickey Mouse, right? In terms of kids just know who he is, even to this day. Which is crazy considering, they're, maybe not. It probably makes sense, but you just think about Disney compared to like Mickey Mouse is probably farther away than Mario, but he is definitely one of the characters that's recognizable. So yeah, to your point, he was huge in the 80s. Maybe we'll see something. Maybe there's a lost level or something that he references as a way to kind of call back to Mario Brothers, but
we'll see. Maybe I'll write a fanfic about it. Like I'll write some fan fiction about something that happened with Anorak and Mario, and that's why he expelled him from Oasis. I think that's what. Maybe we'll figure that out.
All right. Well, look, I said we keep it under an hour, and we did.
Yeah, 2 hours. Under 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah. All right. All right, that's gonna do it. I guess we're done. That's the end of the novel. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the last piece there. Kind of walking down memory lane with us and talking about stuff that we wanted to see but didn't see. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of that in Ready Player 2. And if I have the guts, I will try to bring up some of the other things with Ernie Klein when he's here in 2 weeks. So
I've got good questions for him, though. I got a handful in my pocket. I'm ready to sling his way.
Okay,
I'm ready to go.
We'll hold you to it. All right, don't forget next week on Wednesday. What day was that?
That's the Wednesday? Day before Thanksgiving.
I know. We got a show. The 25th.
All right, but I'm gonna drink for that one then.
Well, that's a shocker. So November 25th, we'll be back here. That'll be the epilogue for Ready Player 2, and then the following week on December 2nd is when we'll be back here with Ernie Klein to discuss Chapter 1. And again, if you just joined us or joined us late, we're gonna do a normal show for the most part. with Ernie Klein as well. So should be a lot of fun. So please join us for that.
Should be. Yeah, I'm hoping he volunteers to do all the chapter summaries for us. Like, I think that'd be cool for him just to you tell me what's going on. You wrote it. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, you tell us. All right. That's going to do it for us this week. We will see you guys next week with Ready Player 2. The views and opinions of the Basement Hosts are of our own and are not in any way affiliated with Random House or Ernest Klein. All quotes, music, sounds, trademarked, and copyrighted material referenced in the show are owned by the respectful companies and creators and are used by the Basement as fair use for entertainment purposes only. It would take me a month to read this whole disclaimer, but sad to say, I don't have that kind of time.